Hi, I'm Alfonso Muchacho. I trust you are in fine health. Today I'm going to talk about builds and how I use effect racks within Ableton Live to create tension during breakdowns. Now, you don't necessarily need to use Ableton Live to do this. The principles will be the same. It's just that effect racks within Live make it a lot easier and quicker. So you've got a few options when you're making a build from a breakdown into the main part of the track, or the drop, as you kids like to call it. It's kind of up to you, but it's also genre dependent. You'll get a lot more snare rolls in tech house, for example. When making progressive house or melodic techno, sometimes you want something a bit less in your face than a big snare roll. So this is where risers come in handy. The problem I find with using rising sounds is they can sound a bit cheesy unless you really nail the sound. I tend to use a combination of delay and reverb on ascend to create a sense of tension, which then gradually fades out as the beat comes in. I find this to be more suitable for melodic music. As ever, I've created a quick track for this tutorial, so let's listen to what I have so far. So that's not bad. The melodies are there, but it's lacking tension in the build-up. I've just dropped in some rising white noise and created a whooshing noise, which kind of does the job, but it feels a little bit cheap and comes across like I haven't really put much effort into it. So let's take a listen to what they sound like on their own. So a much better technique would be to use the elements that are already in the track to create a better sound. Here's a very simple way of doing this. On a return, I will drop in an audio effect rack, and within that, I'm just going to add a ping pong delay and a reverb. So the settings you choose are entirely down to you, but I think I just need to increase the decay time and add a little bit of diffusion also. The next thing I'm going to do is map the macro knob within the effect rack to a couple of parameters. You do this by clicking the parameter you want to affect and then clicking the map button under the knob. So in this instance, I just want to affect the wet-dry controls of the delay and the reverb. I don't want the reverb to be fully wet at the far end of the knob's range, so I'm just going to dial that down slightly. So the next thing I'm going to do is send all the melodic content to this effect rack. This is pretty easy because I'm very organized and I have all my melodies in a group. Okay, so you can hear as I turn the macro, the sound changes and becomes bigger, but personally there's too much low end in there for me and I want to evolve that over time as well. So I'm going to add a filter. I'll change it to a high pass filter and assign that to the macro as well. Let's take a listen to that. So you can really hear how that filter affects the huge reverb and brings the low end out as the reverb gets bigger. Let's add in some automation so I don't have to keep doing this by hand. The beauty with this is that you can decide how long the build takes to fade away once the beat comes back in. So that's sounding quite good. Let's take a listen to the effect just on its own. So another way we can make this sound even bigger is by adding a compressor to the effect and having it sidechain to the kick drum. It won't be affected during the breakdown, but once the beat comes back in, the tail will bounce along with the track. So the great thing with these types of effects is you can add them to anything that isn't the bass line or the kick drum. Here I've added the effect to the percussion group. Let's take a listen to what it does to these sounds. It's quite subtle. So here it is soloed. So you've created your effect chain, and the beauty about using an effect rack is you can just save it and use it again on your next track. Let's call it something descriptive. Now, because it's made up completely of the elements within your track, if you drop it on another track, it will sound completely different because the elements within that track are all different. You couldn't do this with a riser that you made. Obviously, it would sound identical in your next track. These really are simple yet powerful tools. So experiment with different effects in your chain and make sure you save them. That way, when you next need a rising sound in your track you're working on, you can just drag and drop another effect into your track without it sounding like you're using the same effect or noise over and over again. So drop any tips you have for creating tension in your tracks into the comments. What effects do you like to use in your tracks?